Welcome back to Rogers Center here on the Virtual Jays Network. We're here for the first of four against the Kansas City Royals on a beautiful April Thursday night. Drew Frank joined by Thomas West here. Jackson Farrell will be out for a couple games, but we're still here to bring you some Virtual Jays baseball. Both teams off to a hot start. Kansas City and Toronto both not really knowing what they're going to get out of their 2020 seasons, but 8-4 for the Jays, 7-4 for the Royals, and man, the pitching's been a big part of that.
Yeah, and Drew, it's two teams that are kind of trying to prove themselves this year. The Kansas City Royals saying, hey, we can still be in the mix and compete, and the Toronto Blue Jays kind of having the same mindset going into this season. Both teams are off to pretty hot starts, 7-4 the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays, 8-4, kind of a similar scenario there.
And so Tanner Roark on the mound again for the Jays, looking to bounce back from a bit of adversity that they faced in New York. And he'll face the top of the order here with Alberto Mondesi, Hunter Dozier, and Whit Merrifield to greet him in the first. Tanner Roark winds. Next pitch misses low. And for the defense for the Jays, the only starter that's not quite in the lineup tonight is right field. It'll be Anthony Alford with Grichuk in center and Gurriel in left. Around the infield, it's all the starters with Shaw at first, Biggio at second, Bichette playing short, and Drury over at third base because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is off his feet DHing today. This one's lifted out to center field. Grichuk coming in, but won't have a chance as that one drops in, and it's a single here. Oh, and he's running to second. Well, there's the speed on display. That ball, Grichuk kind of took his time sauntering in to go and grab that one. Mondesi, you can see, gets a great jump right out of the box, and all of a sudden there's a runner in scoring position. Grichuk just kind of taking his time, picks it up, throws it in, and man, Mondesi caught the Jays sleeping a little bit there.
Yeah, and last year it was kind of a breakout season for Alberto Mondesi, but that's the kind of thing he can do. He takes a tough pitch and just puts a bat on the ball, and a really good job by Mondesi at 275 average last year, so he's definitely looking to improve on that a bit, and he has huge potential for this club.
Exactly right. And now all of a sudden, runner in scoring position, nobody out. Tanner Roark in a little bit of trouble after just allowing that bloop to Mondesi. Dozier stepping in now. He's been hot, reaching base 9 times over the last 4 games, hitting 8 for 16 in that span. The Royals coming off of a series against the Seattle Mariners where they took 2 of 3, but the last 2 in convincing fashion, 11-0 and 7-0.
Yeah, and Hunter Dozier, one of those prospects that we've been talking about. He was an 8th overall pick in 2013, and he's been putting up some surprising power numbers as well, 26 home runs last year, and they're looking for some of that out of the 2-hole this year for Kansas City.
And that one's hit hard by Dozier, but it'll get out of play foul. So now 2 strikes. Rourke's worked ahead now, and Jansen wants something low in the dirt. Another pitch hit hard foul off to that right-hand side. So the count will remain full here as Tanner Roark trying to work ahead of Hunter Dozier. He doesn't want to let him on base because dangerous Whit Merrifield's on deck. And the 3-2 pitch freezes him. Dozier thinks that's outside. The umpire rings him up, and Tanner Roark's got his first strikeout of the day.
Yeah, and it's a strikeout there for Hunter Dozier, but the positive takeaway from that is that he did work a long at-bat, got into a 3-2 count, and that's the kind of thing you want to do early in the game and against a pitcher who's been good for the Blue Jays so far.
So Roark spotting that fastball in the black of the plate. Keep an eye on that tonight. His fastball was in a lot of dangerous spots against New York. He only got through 4 innings in the Bronx, but if he can locate tonight, he's in for a better result. This one's hit hard on the ground to Bichette, ranging to his right, and he will bobble it, and everyone is safe. So he had to range to his right away from the base. He got there, planted his feet, but when he reached up with his glove, it just slipped out. So it'll be an error for Bichette now as 2 men are aboard.
Well, not a good start for Bo Bichette. He's been struggling at the plate and coming back to Toronto now, hoping to try and get something going, and especially being out of the leadoff spot, trying to hit for a higher average, and doesn't do anything for your confidence levels when you make an error in the first inning.
And the danger now presents itself in the reigning American League home run champion Jorge Soler, now with 2 on. First pitch catches the zone, taken for a strike. So Soler, a major breakout season last year. Not the name that a lot of guys had predicted at the top of the home run charts, but nonetheless, a great display of power from him. And now Tanner Roark has to be careful because with the big bat at the plate, 2 runners aboard, it's still only the first inning, but he could be in for some trouble here if Soler manages to get a hold of one.
Yeah, and Drew, this is exactly the situation that you want to see him in.
Well, he laces it on the ground. Speed from second. Modesty's going to be waved all the way. He's going to score easily with no throw. So the speed on second base shows himself again as he comes in easily. The single drops in front of Gurriel, who's got a great arm himself, but Soler gets the single he needs, and the Jays are behind 1-0 early.
Yeah, and that's why this lineup for the Kansas City Royals has the potential to be so deadly. It has been very deadly early in the season, but you have so many people at the top of the lineup that can get on base, and then Jorge Soler, the power bat, and he does a really good job to lace one into left field there.
You could see the power in that one. Even though it was a single, it was really lined in there and got down quickly. But so now it'll be Salvador Perez, the longtime catcher for the Royals, one of the leaders of this group after missing 2019 with an injury. He's back here today and behind the plate once again for the Royals.
Yeah, and a World Series champion with the Kansas City Royals as well.
This one's on the ground, up the middle. Bichette not able to get there. Coming around, wheeling wave to him. Whit Merrifield, no throw. He'll come in to score. And so back-to-back singles now, both driving the runner from second. And now it's a 2-0 Kansas City Royals lead.
Well, Salvador Perez is salvaging a pretty good career right now. He's been fantastic, and 27 home runs in 2018, which is the last time he played, but he's done a really good job for Mike Matheny thus far in this season, and you have to know there's a lot of prospects waiting in the wings right now for the Kansas City Royals. Salvador Perez kind of one of those lone guys that's still there from that dynasty of 2016.
Well, and he's looking to bounce back after last year. One of the rare position players in baseball to get Tommy John surgery. You don't see that very often, but usually it's pitchers. But very difficult surgery and wiped out all of his 2019. But now it'll be Michael Franco, a new signing for the Royals. Picked him up in the offseason. He's ahead 2-0 and now 3-0 in the count as he looks for someone to hit now to keep this hit parade going in a very hitter-friendly count.
Well, you mentioned the Tommy John surgery for him, and if anyone was to get Tommy John surgery other than a pitcher, you'd have to think it'd be a catcher just because they're throwing the ball back to the pitcher every single time the pitcher throws it back, and it's like you're in the game for the entire time. It's a lot of stress on that arm, just to mention throwing runners out as well.
Well, now there's a lot of stress on Tanner Roark as with 2 runs in already, the bases are loaded here with Ryan McBroom at the plate. Roark sets. First pitch inside but off of the plate. Looked like he tried to sneak in a slider that tried to cut back. Doesn't get the call. McBroom ahead 1-0. This one's hit on the ground. Bichette fields it. Flips the second for 1 over the first. And the double play is turned so they get out of the inning. But not before the Kansas City Royals on the back of RBI singles from Salvador Perez and Jorge Soler take a 2-0 lead here in Toronto. Welcome back here now in the bottom of the first inning as Jakob Junis takes the mound, and he has been one of the hottest pitchers in all of baseball so far in 2020.
Yeah, and Jakob Junis hasn't given up a run so far this year. You can't imagine that that's going to continue for much longer, but for the Blue Jays, that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're going to get on him, you want to get on him early, as he's been really hot so far this year.
And I think what's almost most impressive about his season is the 2 starts. First one came against the White Sox. Second one was against the Mariners, and the Mariners were extremely hot. They started the season 7-1. Then Kansas City hosts them in Kansas City this past weekend. And Junis' last start, they win 11-0 as he shuts them out. But one of the hotter teams in baseball, so an impressive display from him there as the 0-1 pitch misses wide and Bichette even things at 1-1.
Yeah, and he's been fantastic, but this hot start as well, it's been kind of a struggle for him to get past the 9-win mark. All 3 seasons he's been in the league, he's collected 9 wins, so a couple early on is definitely going to help his case, and especially getting a full season of working with the Kansas City Royals this year as well.
Well, he'll get every chance in he'll get every opportunity in the rotation this year. The Royals, a middling team that looking to see more what they've got than contend in 2020, so he'll get every chance to prove himself. Bichette lifts this one over the third base side, ranging back his dozer, reaches up and makes a great catch. Running back, reaches up over his head and manages to pull that one in. So not an easy play at all, especially looking up into the dome here at Rogers Center. So after Bichette, it'll be Kevin Biggio in the 2-hole, followed today by Lourdes Gurriel batting thirds. Guerrero bats cleanup, and after him, it'll be Randall Grichuk, Brandon Drury, Danny Jansen. Travis Shaw moved all the way down into the 8-hole, and Anthony Alford back in the lineup, batting ninth tonight.
Well, Kevin Biggio had that big home run versus Philly in the first inning, so he'd love to see another one here to get the Blue Jays back within 1.
Hits this one hard on the right side, but that will get out of play foul. Fastball, Junis left up just a bit above the zone. Biggio out in front. Yanks it foul. 2-1 now. Swung on and missed at that slider up in the zone. Biggio went for it, but a great spot. Pulls the string on him. Biggio way out in front. This one's hit hard right through the shift into center field. So just about where a second baseman would be standing if they were playing him straight away, but manages to find a gap through the shift, and Biggio's aboard with a base hit.
Yeah, and Kevin Biggio last season didn't finish the year with the average that he wanted, but when the leadoff hitter gets out, it's really nice to have another guy that can take a lot of pitches and put the bat on the ball just like he did right there.
Well, now it'll be Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And Gurriel here, a bit of a mixed bag so far when it comes to results. He had a great season, a great series against the Reds. Went into New York and wasn't able to get anything going, and same with Philadelphia. He came away from that 2-game set with just the 1 single. So a bit of struggle after a pretty decent homestand, but now he's back in Toronto and seeing if he can do something with an 0-2 count as he takes a fastball down and in for ball 1. The 1-2, and this one's hit hard on the second base. It'll be flubbed there by Whit Merrifield, but he recovers and throws the first. So a potential double play ball, no more. That one, a quick little mistake by Merrifield, a guy you don't see really messing up on those routine grounders, known for his reliability. As now Bichette will be able to scamper into second safely as they pick up just the 1 on what could have been a double play ball.
It's interesting when you look at these two teams as well, and you see the similarities between them. They both have relatively weak bullpens. Their starting rotation looks like it has potential, and you can just see unbelievable offensive potential from the lineups of these two teams.
Well, and this one's popped up. It's going to get into foul territory. McBroom racing back, and he picks that one up. So that will end the inning here as he picks that one up on the fly. Guerrero retires, and a clean inning from Junis here as we head to the top of the second. Here now in the top of the second, it'll be 8-9-1 coming in to face Tanner Roark for the Kansas City Royals as Brett Phillips gets ready to start things off now and try and turn the lineup over and build off of what was a successful offensive first inning for them.
Well, you might remember Brett Phillips, part of that big Mike Moustakas deal back when he was in Milwaukee, and he never really hit the potential that I think the Brewers were expecting from him.
Sprays this one to shortstop. Bichette ranging to his right. A nice play there as he jumps almost to throw across his body over the first base and retire the speedy Brett Phillips. So Bichette, a little bit of a miscue in the first, where it was a more routine play ball than that one, where it just seemed to slip out of his glove, but recovers there and nicely throws out the running Brett Phillips there first.
Well, we're seeing Bubba Starling here at the plate right now, and the highly touted prospect for the Kansas City Royals. He was drafted out of high school, which can sometimes be risky, but he was drafted out of high school as the 5th overall pick.
He lifts this one up into foul territory. Travis Shaw camping under it and hauls that one in for the second now as Roark has attacked the bottom of the order nicely here so far.
Drew, we see a lot of the time when people get drafted out of high school, they end up going straight back to university and trying to enter the draft again. But I guess when you're a 5th overall draft pick, you don't have much choice. But with Bubba Starling, 27 years of age, it's fair to say his career hasn't really panned out as he'd like it to so far.
Well, Thomas, you mentioned how Junis will get an opportunity to prove himself in the rotation, and a lot of the guys on this Royals team will get the same opportunity in the lineup because, again, they're not pushing for a playoff run necessarily this year, and it's kind of a feeling out the roster type year. So a guy like Starling's going to have an opportunity to finally capture that potential. Or even you mentioned Brett Phillips, who wasn't quite able to figure things out in Milwaukee. Maybe this will be a chance for a few guys like that to really show themselves in 2020.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, we mentioned, to be fair to Bubba Starling, he only had a .215 average, but he's not on the team for his hitting. It's his defense and his fantastic outfield arm that is the key to his success.
As Modesty cuts through that one, Roark retires him on the swinging strikeout, so a 1-2-3 inning to bounce back from 2 allowed in the first. Randall Grichuk steps in here in the bottom of the second in Toronto on the Virtual Jays network as he gets ready to face Jakob Junis, who looked good so far in the first.
Yeah, Jakob Junis is dealing as he's been in a lot of his starts, and we see the sparkling 0.00 ERA this year. It's a huge improvement from last year. I mean, obviously that won't continue through the rest of the season, but a 5.24, which was his career worst last year, so he's looking to have a bounce back year.
And Grichuk now with a 1-1 count. He's had an interesting year so far himself. Shown some pop and hits that one hard. Is it knocked down at third base? Throw over the first, and Hunter Dozier recovers and makes the play. Man, what a strong arm you can see there. Dives to stop it. Dozier over at third base. Look at him there. What a play by Hunter Dozier.
Wow, and Hunter Dozier's fantastic arm just bailed him out right there. He's not the best fielder in the world, but as long as you can keep the ball in front of you with an arm like that, you're going to get a lot of runners and be able to bail yourself out.
Well, that'll look good for Jakob Junis, who had his infield defense let him down a little bit in the first inning, which nothing came of it. So you'll take that, but nice to see there as Dozier again makes a beautiful play to retire Grichuk. So now Drury's up here with 1 away. Hits this one foul now as Junis working quickly. He's been attacking a lot of these Jays hitters as he had ahead again, 0-2.
And Brandon Drury, an interesting guy on this team. He started out as just being someone who could maybe fill in at third base, and he's in kind of a controversial position, you could say, with the Vladimir Guerrero prospect of playing third base for the Toronto Blue Jays. But he's been really good this year, and he's making a case for it.
And he gets jammed inside by Junis there as he goes in to try and chase it. He actually shuffles his feet to try and get a piece of that one. In on the hands, fooled there by Junis, and now he's retired for the second strikeout of the day.
Well, that just goes to show you how sharp Jakob Junis' slider has been so far this game, and everything he's throwing is breaking. It looked like maybe he was going to be leading out looking for that ball in the outside corner, but it ended up running in just on his hands and made him look silly.
And so Danny Jansen up now. He's made quite a few pitchers look silly with his hot start to 2020, hitting .316 with a few home runs, and he's really moved up the lineup. You can see a hot stretch on the road where he hit a pair of home runs. He's up in the 7th spot, bumped ahead of Travis Shaw, who opened the year up in the middle of the Jays order, and depending on who's in the lineup night in, night out, Jansen showing a lot with his bat, could be bumped up even further.
Well, Shaw struggling right now, but this is really good to see from Danny Jansen. He was one of the top prospects in baseball just a couple years ago, where he was in the top 100 list, which is tough to make considering there's so many people coming up through the minor league levels, but hadn't quite lived up to expectations with the bat so far. So a hot start for Danny Jansen is really proving his case that he can still be a Major League Baseball player.
And he swings through the 1-2, so Junis back-to-back strikeouts to get out of the 2nd inning. He's looked good, gets the strikeout swinging on both sliders there, and all of a sudden that 0 ERA is manifesting itself in Toronto. Top of the 3rd from Rogers Center now, as the middle of the order comes back up again for the Kansas City Royals, as Hunter Dozier, Whit Merrifield, and Jorge Soler will challenge Tanner Roark. Dozier struck out in his first at-bat. Just about the only guy at the top of the order for Kansas City that wasn't able to come on base and contribute to their first inning 2-run rally.
Well, Hunter Dozier, one improvement that we've seen from him in recent years and a little bit this season is his ability to hit extra base hits. His slugging percentage has gone up to .522 last year, and he's supporting a number similar to that this year.
That one there grounded to Biggio, fields it cleanly, throws to first, and nice first out for Roark, who's settled in a little bit after a tough start to his day. The bloop double, which you don't see very often, and a miscue at shortstop that Bo Bichette has shown uncharacteristic form so far this year, but despite the adversity, looking good here in the 2nd and into the 3rd inning.
Yeah, well, that miscue is how Whit Merrifield reached in the 1st inning and made it really tough for Tanner Roark, because that looked like a ball that would get the 2nd out of the inning, which would make it a lot easier on Roark. So
this one's hit to the 3rd base side, over the 1st base, and a nice play there by Brandon Drury. Drury playing a little shallow there because you have to be aware of the bunts in potential anytime a speedy guy like Merrifield's at the plate. So fields that one nicely at all sorts of time, throws over the 1st, and 2 away now.
And Jorge Soler in the 1st inning was the guy who got that RBI single to get the Kansas City Royals on the board. And as we mentioned before, it's always tough as a pitcher when you make a good pitch and get that ground ball you're looking for, and it either sneaks through or your fielder makes an error on it. And especially when we see the leadoff hit of the game was a bloop single. So Tanner Roark, his numbers don't look very good right now, but he has been pretty sharp thus far.
Well, and this one's hit on the ground as well, as Bichette fields this one cleanly over the 1st, and that'll retire the side. So the Royals go out quietly in the 3rd inning as Roark seems to be settling in. It'll be the bottom of the order for the Jays, 8-9-1, trying to get something started in the bottom of the 3rd. Welcome back to Rogers Center here on the Virtual Jays Network. Drew Frank joined by Thomas West, and Kansas City jumped out early so far tonight, able to get a bit of a rally going in the top of the 1st. Not a ton of big hits per se, but stringing together a walk and a couple ground balls that found holes, and the Jays now looking to dig themselves out of a deficit as Travis Shaw starts things off.
Yeah, you're looking at a guy at the plate right now that's really pushing to try and put some hits together, and it's been a struggle for him in the last couple of years. He was one of the top players on the Milwaukee Brewers, but he's 30 years old now, and he's put together a couple seasons where he hasn't been able to get his average above 200. So a guy that's really looking to turn it around, and he's facing a tough pitcher on the mound to do it today.
And a great pitch there by Junis. Fastball right on the outer corner. Shaw wants pitches inside that he can really pull, and that's why you see such a drastic shift here by the Royals. But now Junis had 1-2, sending up on the inside corner. Swung on and missed as he expands the zone. Perez called that one inside all the way. They managed to get Drury expanding inside earlier in the last innings with the strikeout swinging, and then after getting Jansen to end the inning, it's 3 in a row now for Junis.
Well, we've seen a couple examples of how well Jake Junis has been mixing his pitches. That a lot of the time the Blue Jays batters are looking for something on the outside of the plate, and he just runs something right in on their hands, and that can be a dangerous pitch because if you leave it over the middle of the plate, there's a good chance that it's probably going to get rocked, but if you're not looking for it, it becomes really difficult, and that's what's happening to the Blue Jays right now.
So now Anthony Alford steps in, and he's had a few days off. He didn't get into any games out in Philadelphia. Last time he played was in that Yankees series as he takes the ball now 2-1. But potentially one of the reasons he's in tonight is Teoscar Hernandez gets the day off, maybe to clear his head. Last game in Philadelphia, a few defensive miscues that led to extra bases, and maybe not the most effort shown out there trying to recover as a few of them trickled by him, but gets the day off tonight, and Alford's looking to prove himself. He'll take any playing time he can get.
Yeah, and Anthony Alford's is an interesting prospect for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a guy that he's one of those natural athletes. He could have been a football player in high school, ended up choosing baseball, but he's got the build to be a really fantastic baseball player, but the Blue Jays are just waiting to see if he can break out and start to hit a little bit better than he has been lately.
And he takes that inside fastball for ball 4, showing a little bit of a development there. I mean, we saw some pretty experienced hitters on the Jays expanding inside and chasing for strike 3. Alford's a little bit wiser there as he lays off, and now the Jays have the 9-hitter on base, which is exactly what you want when the leadoff batter comes up next.
That's the interesting thing about baseball too. Anthony Alford, obviously the powerful athlete, but maybe something like taking pitches or having a good eye could be a struggle when you have someone like Kevin Biggio, who just has a fantastic eye at the plate, but not exactly that natural born athlete, more an inherited athlete as his dad Craig maybe.
Well, and another family-tied athlete here is Bo Bichette, who's worked ahead quickly now, 2-0, trying to cash in and capitalize on that speed that's on first base in the form of Alford. And Alford's off and running, throw into second base, and he will get there in time. Just as we mentioned it, Alford showing off the speed, picks up his first steal of the season, and the first steal for this entire Toronto Blue Jays team this season.
Well, there you go right there. Anthony Alford, if he can get on base like that and work walks, he is a real threat on the base path, and that was a fantastic example of it now, as now there's a runner in scoring position with just 1 out.
This one's hit to the right field side, but it'll get out of play. So exactly as you mentioned, Thomas, runner on second. Bichette not off to the hottest start this season. Maybe an opportunity now to try and drive in a runner.
Yeah, and last year Bo Bichette was labeled as an extra base hitting machine, and this year it hasn't quite been like that, but his ability to have a little bit of pop in his bat and also hit for average is a real key for the Toronto Blue Jays' success.
This one's hit up the middle, ranging over his Mondesi, and he'll not field it cleanly. Reaches down, he got to that ball and kept it on the infield, but similar to what we saw with Bichette himself in the first inning, he reached down with the glove and he came up empty-handed. So keeps that on the infield, and Alford will stay at third base, but they don't retire Bichette, and now his runners on the corners.
This has not been a fielding clinic so far in this game, and especially on the middle infield, and some costly errors and situations where the pitcher can get 2 outs in the inning, but the Blue Jays just looking to capitalize on one of these here like the Kansas City Royals did in the first.
And I think that's when you said earlier on about how these two teams are pretty similar. A lot of inexperienced defenders, and we've seen it so far here as this one swung on and missed by Biggio. A great pitch there as Junis just beats him with the fastball to get way out in front, 0-2 now.
Yeah, that's kind of the MO on both Mondesi and Bo Bichette at shortstop. He's a great hitter, but when it comes to fielding, it's been a little bit of an issue for him.
This one's lefted. Alford's tagging from third. Should be deep enough to throw in. Is cut by the shortstop. Mondesi relayed home, and Alford is well in there. So a sac fly by Kevin Biggio, and the Jays have their first run of the game.
Well, it's a really nice piece of hitting there from Kevin Biggio just to get in that run, get the deep fly ball, but you have to imagine credit from Charlie Montoyo is going to go to Anthony Alford on that one. He generated a walk, stole second base, moved up on the ground ball, and scores a run pretty much all by himself.
This one's hit over the third. Dozier goes over the second base. Merrifield receives it and retires Bichette at second. So that'll be 3 outs now as Junis quickly recovers and ends the inning as we head to the top of the fourth in Toronto. Top of the fourth, and welcome back to Toronto, Ontario, as we're here with some Thursday night baseball as the Jays are back home and back against the American League. It's the Royals here for the first of 4 as Salvador Perez steps up, an RBI single back in the first.
Well, Salvador Perez is that one guy on the team that is definitely in a leadership role right now. He's a veteran guy on the team, and he's a mentor for MJ Mendeles, who's just waiting in the wings, waiting for Salvador Perez's career to end. But it's really important to have guys, especially with all these prospects. Even if some of them aren't young, Salvador Perez is one of the most experienced guys in the lineup right now.
And one of the guys that around baseball, you don't really hear many bad stories about from anyone. He's known as a class act and someone that is really valuable in that dugout when you've got so many young pieces coming up.
Yeah, and especially the experience of winning that World Series just a couple years ago with the Royals and bringing a winning mentality to them again as they're looking to rebuild and have guys with that MO.
3-1 count there. He swings and puts a nice hack on that one, but it's going to get out of the play foul, so the count is now full to the leadoff hitter. Roark winds. Payoff pitch, another one fouled off. As this bit of a battle here between two experienced players. Jansen shifting inside here. Not able to find the zone. Looked like maybe a bit of a two-seam fastball there or something off speed. Just a little bit. Is unable to locate it, and now it'll be a leadoff walk with Maikel Franco coming up now.
Yeah, and Franco's another one of those veteran guys, and a bit of a tough situation in his career that Philadelphia Phillies kind of just gave up on him as their third baseman because that guy that you guys saw just a couple days ago in the last series versus Philly, Scott Kingery, moved into that place. But Franco looking to rejuvenate his MLB career here in Kansas City.
And this one's hit hard right back up the middle, and that'll get easily into center field for a single. So runners on first and second now as the Royals have something going here quickly against Roark.
And it's really tough for Roark right now, too. He's just trying to get out of this inning and not throw too many pitches. Already at 49 pitches with no outs here in the fourth. And that first inning with the errors and then the 3-2 counts in this inning are really making it tough. And it's going to be taxing on the Blue Jays bullpen if he can't get out of this quickly.
Well, and you want to talk about getting ground balls. Roark's been doing exactly that, and that's his style on the mound, right? He throws fastball that breaks down, a bit of a sinker baller type pitcher, and he's yet to allow a ball that's been hit past the outfielders. Everything's been either finding a hole in the infield, as this one finds a hole in the infield and it's into center field. Getting the wave around is Perez. He's going to be sent home, cut by Shaw, play to the plate, and he is in there. So scoring from second is Perez on another ball that we see just finding a gap in the infield.
Yeah, another ground ball from Tanner Roark. He's getting no luck right now on the mound, and a good play by Pete Walker to come out, maybe calm down the veteran Roark and see if he can't get a ground ball to get himself at least a couple outs here.
Well, and how about that? Happy birthday, Ryan McBroom, as he gets an RBI single today on his 28th birthday.
Yeah, and Drew, we've been wanting to mention it all game, but he's just had such quick at-bats at the plate, a first inning single there and an RBI. But yeah, turning 28 years old, Ryan McBroom.
And you can see action in the Jays pen. You mentioned Thomas it's still early to be looking at the bullpen, so you're going to need a few innings if you have to make the call. So both Shun Yamaguchi and Wilmer Font, starters in 2019, valuable assets up there. This one's hit the shortstop as Bichette makes a leaping grab, so a nice play by Bichette. Hit right to him, but a couple of feet over his head, jumps up and hauls that one in for the first out.
Yeah, and one key to the Blue Jays bullpen, it's not a strong bullpen this year. You wouldn't put it up there in the MLB rankings, but they do have a lot of guys that have been starters in the past, like Shun Yamaguchi and Wilmer Font in the pen right now. So if you do get a short start from your starter, you almost have a second guy who can go 2 or 3 innings in the bullpen, which can be really valuable just later in the season when the arms start to get tired.
Well, bouncing off of yesterday's off day, they've got at least a lot of rested arms there. But yeah, you mentioned you start a 7-game homestand tonight. You don't have an off day until next week. You need to start, especially from a guy like Tanner Roark, who's expected to give you some innings as he misses there with a 2-1 slider.
Right, and they did have the off day yesterday, but you don't want to burn out your entire pen right at the beginning of your stretch of games.
Exactly. As this one's on the ground, another ground ball that finds a hole, and they're sending the runner Franco from second base. Throw to the plate from Alfred is offline, and another runner coming in to score from second, as that's the 4th runner. Every single one now has scored from second on a ground ball single from the Royals, as they just keep finding the holes with those ground balls.
Well, sometimes things just don't go your way, and I don't think Tanner Roark should be kicking himself after that. He's made a lot of good quality pitches down in the zone to get the ground ball, and we see the throw from the outfield there from Anthony Alford's way offline, and it's been some real troubles in right field for the Toronto Blue Jays as Teoscar Hernandez getting benched, and potentially because of the poor defense he's been putting up lately.
And the throw from Alford, not only offline, no cutoff man involved, so scampering all the way over the third base now would be the runner from first, McBroom. So again, with just one out, they're still in a position to tack on more with a potential 5th run 90 feet away. Kansas City, to their credit, mentioned the ground ball. That's not just luck, though. They are hitting these balls hard. There have been quite a few that have been lasered through the infield. Especially, we saw the Maikel Franco one earlier this inning. But Roark, he's getting them where he wants it. Just a lot of hard contact on those ground balls.
Yeah, they are, but if you're Tanner Roark right now, you're saying, why can't one of those just be hit right to one of the infielders so he can get a double play?
Well, see where he goes now. Mondesi hit that bloop double in his first at-bat, struck out later on, and now in his 3rd plate appearance, he's worked it full. This one's hit on the ground, back to Roark himself. He'll turn it to second for 1, and over the first to get the speedy Mondesi. Well, how about that? You talk about him wanting a double play. He says he'll do it himself as he gets the final 2 outs here as we head to the bottom of the 4th with 4-5-6 coming up for the Jays. Bottom of the 4th, back here in Rogers Center, and the Jays are starting the first of 2 series against the AL Central, which is a division that when the AL East is going to be so tight this year, you've really got to capitalize when you play out of the division, right, Thomas?
Yeah, you sure do, and if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, we mentioned earlier, this is kind of a turning point in their season right now. They're 8-4, they didn't have the best series in Philadelphia, and coming back home, you want to prove to these home fans that you're still in it, and there's maybe a chance to push for a wild card spot this year.
And Vladimir Guerrero, he's been showing a whole lot to the home fans. He's reached base with a base hit in every game at home so far this season, and almost every game on the road. Just had his 10-game hit streak fall yesterday as they got complete game shutout by Zach Wheeler. And this one's hit down the line, and that's going to drop just foul. So that one laced into the corner by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. off the end of the bat. All sorts of hooking action as it ends up foul, and now it hit one right back to the same spot, not quite as hard, so it'll be in there for just a single, but a great 2-strike approach to take an outside pitch over the opposite field.
Well, in my opinion, that's absolutely a mistake there from Jakob Junis. He threw a pitch on the outside corner, and Vlad just hit it just wide of the line. He went right back to the same pitch, and what does Vladimir Guerrero do? He puts it just a little further inside and gets it down for a signal.
And he starts this at-bat with a fastball left out over the plate as well to Randall Grichuk. That one ends up foul.
Randall Grichuk's in an interesting position in the Blue Jays organization right now. It's kind of a controversy whether he's on a big contract right now, and it's a question for the Jays whether they want to try and move him at a deadline maybe later, to depending on how the Blue Jays are doing and seasons that are to come. But there's a lot of prospects in the Blue Jays outfield, and Randall Grichuk's trying to make a case that he's not blocking up that line of prospects coming in, but he actually can be a productive batter at the plate.
Well, he's been bitten by the strikeout all season, and right there he gets rung up on an outside fastball. So that's 4 strikeouts for Junis so far here, just in the 4th inning, but you can see that fastball finds a lot of the plate.
Yeah, it does, and we saw Randall Grichuk take the swing right after it there. He knew that was one that he can drive. He likes the high pitch, and now with 1 out, a ground ball could get them out of the inning.
And you talk about what Randall Grichuk provides, especially in terms of trade value. We've seen him falling victim to the strikeout quite a bit early on in this season, and that's something that he's going to want to get under control when he's trying to prove himself in the outfield, despite his ability to get those extra base hits from time to time.
Yeah, and the guy at the plate last year had a bit of an issue with the strikeout as well, but this year he's been fantastic, average well up over 300, and some similarities to last year as well. Remember, he got off to a really hot start, and he's doing the same this year.
And this one's hit hard, but they'll find the seats as this one's out of play foul. Jumping on that fastball, though.
Yeah, I think as well as Brandon Drury has a tendency to kind of taper off in his numbers later in the season. That might have to do with the fact that he is starting to become a veteran player, and it's just tough for him to play those 162 games.
Well, he chases that one on the outside slider. Back-to-back strikeouts now. We saw him chase an inside slider in his first at-bat where he tried to get a piece of a ball cutting back into the zone. So Junis retires Drury both times with that effective breaking ball of his. Jansen now also fell victim to the strikeout, and really something that's plagued the bottom of the Jays order. Whether it's those 2 bats, Grichuk, or some others we've seen, Derek Fisher in his time with the Jays so far has also been hit hard by the strikeout. So here he managed to put this one in play, but it's on the ground to Whit Merrifield, who goes the short way to second base and retires the side. So nothing doing here for the Jays in the end of the 4th inning as we head to the top of the 5th. Tanner Roark back out on the mound. Top of the 5th now as we welcome you back here to Toronto, Ontario from the Rogers Centre, as it'll be 2-3-4 for the Kansas City Royals, set to greet Tanner Roark in his 5th inning of work here as Hunter Dozier starts things off 0-2 on the day.
Yeah, 0-2 today, but previously had really good numbers against Tanner Roark in his career. He's 3-for-6, 4-for-6 that is, with a home run, a double, and a couple of base knocks against him. So surprising that he hasn't been able to get anything going against Tanner today.
Well, and a pair of curveballs from Roark to start things off. First one taken for a ball, second one taken for a strike. And interesting to see him attacking with the breaking ball as this fastball is fouled off, 1-2.
Yeah, and that breaking ball for a strike as well. Obviously, Dozier not expecting it, but it was up in the zone, and that's something if you're a pitching coach to be careful of, as it could mean that Tanner Roark's getting to the end of the line.
This one grounded over to his counterpart at third base, who fields it cleanly and throws on to first. So Dozier retires, and Roark showing he's still got some gas left in the tank. He only managed to get through 4 in his last outing. Now he's beat that at least by 1 out, and he's set to continue moving forward. First pitch to Merrifield, misses high for a ball. Merrifield, another guy that's got some experience against Roark, both spending quite a bit of time in the majors now.
Yeah, and Whit Merrifield is kind of the model of how the number 3 hitter in baseball has become. It used to be a guy that can hit home runs. You try and get someone in at the top of the order, but Whit Merrifield is pretty much a contact hitter and just kind of the best hitter in the lineup, and I think we're seeing a lot of teams doing that now these days in baseball.
and really a guy that gets overlooked when you talk about some of the best hitters in the American League. Led the league in hits, led the league in steals just a couple years ago, as this one is fouled up and out of play, but really not the biggest market in Kansas City, and a guy that deserves a lot more credit and attention than he's gotten so far in his career.
Yeah, and a guy that can be so valuable to just about any team if you can get on base and you have a little bit of speed that you can steal a bag or maybe run out something. It's huge for a ball club.
After the third baseman Dozier grounds out to third, it'll be the second baseman Merrifield grounding out to second now, as 2 up, 2 down for Tanner Roark to start a clean 5th inning.
As Jorge Soler comes up now, you mentioned last time the 48 home runs that he hit last year led all of baseball, but it wasn't the only stat that he led all of baseball in, also the strikeout leader as well. So it'll be interesting to see if Jorge Soler can get those numbers down and maybe be in a conversation for an MVP race or something like that later in the year.
And how often do you see that in the modern power hitters? Big swings and really going all out for the power, and you see a lot of the swing and misses generated as a result.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys around the league, but it's home runs right now have become kind of a premium in the MLB, where teams would rather have that than someone who can get on base. Obviously, those guys are important, but if you can hit the ball out of the ballpark, you can get multiple runs at one time. So that's kind of the strategy that a lot of teams have been going through, and especially when you have a guy like Whit Merrifield and then Jorge Soler right after him who can hit the ball out of the park, it creates a lot of potential for the 2 and 3 run home runs.
And now he's set up nicely for it in the 3-1 count. His third time on the day seeing Tanner Roark. In the first, he came up with a couple runners on and drilled a single to left to drive in the game's first run. Here now he's looking to get something going here in the 5th. 3-1, and he takes it in and off of the plate for ball 4. Almost looked like that caught the corner, but ruled a ball as that one just misses down and inside. So a runner on now for Kansas City.
Yeah, this has been a really frustrating start for Tanner Roark. There's been a couple pitches that he'd like to go his way, and even if they're just off the plate, he still made a good pitch, and the errors, the bloop singles, and just so many ground balls getting through for Roark. It's kind of a demoralizing start, but he's done a roughly good job to at least keep the Kansas City Royals to just 4 runs in this game, as they've had quite a few hits.
And he does get the benefit of that first call just up on the outside corner, as the second one misses low. So 1-1 against another experienced batter, to Salvador Perez, who walked in his last time up and eventually scored. 3 walks on the day now for Roark, with the latest one coming against Jorge Soler. As that breaking ball quite outside, it gets Salvador Perez to chase, and now 2-2 against Perez. Roark set up nicely here to finish off this inning well, as he misses there to fill the count. So full count, 2 out, runner running off at first base. The pitch is swung on and missed, and Tanner Roark settles in nicely, striking out another batter with that big swing and miss. So now, after 5 innings of work from Tanner Roark, the Jays need some offense heading to the bottom of the 5th. Danny Jansen now, a guy that Montoya's had some interesting decisions with, because you've got Reese McGuire, who's a very talented catcher, and he hasn't had too much of an opportunity because Danny Jansen's bat has been so good for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and Reese McGuire last year was the better hitter out of him and Jansen. So it's interesting to see if he doesn't get the opportunity. Is it tough to maybe come off the bench after not playing for a lot of games and still put up that good average like he did last year?
Well, interestingly enough, the Jays in Philadelphia had 2 pinch hit opportunities where they substituted their 9-spot pitcher out, and in both times they went to Reese McGuire. And I was thinking it might have gone to Brandon Drury. We've talked how his bat's been, but instead they go to McGuire, and he was unable to do anything, as Shaw lifts this one into foul territory. Soler is over, and he's camped under it, and he will make the play. So Shaw retired quickly by Junis, as he continues to sail smoothly here into the 5th inning.
Well, you wonder if the Reese McGuire move coming for the pitcher was maybe just to get him some at-bats, because it's not every day you waste your catcher on the bench. It's always an opportunity for Danny Jansen to get out of the game, but putting Reese McGuire in as a batter is probably just to get him some work and make sure his bat doesn't go completely cold for when they need him, because Danny Jansen's stretch won't last forever.
Anthony Alford showing bunts on the first pitch, trying to drag one, but instead fouls it back and takes pitch number 2, so it's 1-1 count against the Jays 9-hitter Alford, as he puts a good swing on this one, but it'll get out of the play foul. 1-2 now. Alford has looked pretty good and back here in Rogers Center as he got the opportunity. He had a big RBI double against the Reds as this pitch misses low for a ball. But 2020 will be a major turning point in his career, whether or not he's able to solidify himself as a major leaguer. As a nice take there as he sees the breaking ball outside.
Well, I think a key for him is maybe trying to hit for a little bit more average, and what I mean by that is maybe cutting down the big swing. He already has a lot of power with his big build, but taking huge hacks at the ball can be detrimental to his average, kind of like it was right there.
And as he swings through that one, Junis picks up his 6th strikeout already just here in the 5th inning. A fastball that beats Alford in on the hands, not able to get his hands out in front of that ball, and he is retired as the lineup turns over now, exactly how Junis wants it to, with 2 out and nobody on as he deals with the Jays' top bats. Change up outside to start things off for Bo Bichette. And an interesting matchup so far. Bichette got underneath one and popped it out in his first at-bat. It looked like he put pretty good wood on it, but just as mentioned, underneath it to lift it in the air. And this one's driven out to left field. Got better wood on this one, but ranging back is the left fielder Starling, and he will haul that in. So a quick 1-2-3 inning once again for Jakob Junis as he's through 5 with just a 1 run allowed. And so it'll be a call to the bullpen for the Toronto Blue Jays as Shun Yamaguchi gets another outing of work here. Someone the Jays have gone to quite often so far this season.
Yeah, he's a guy that's got a lot of work in, but being a converted starter from Japan, it's definitely a move that the Blue Jays are comfortable doing. They know Shun Yamaguchi can go multiple innings, and if they only pitch him on a few innings per day, he might be able to get a lot of work in for them, and he's been effective so far.
And someone that Montoya's, as you mentioned, clearly comfortable going to. We saw him in both games against the Phillies, and now back here to start the series against the Royals as he hits this one hard into the corner. Alford's got the speed to range over there quickly and hauls that one back into the infield before Franco can even consider extra bases. Loud single from Franco, though, greets Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi, not the best performance against the Phillies. In the last game the Jays played, he pitched just one inning, as he relieved Shoemaker, pitched the 7th inning, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits, and only managed to get the 1 inning of work in there before being lifted. So a guy that can give you multiple innings, as you mentioned, a converted starter, especially in potentially a lower leverage situation, down 3 runs, but very hit or miss in what we've seen from him in 2020.
Well, Shun Yamaguchi definitely looking for a ground ball to get a couple outs here from Ryan McBroom, and we've been mentioning that the defense has been a little bit stingy in this game, but Ryan McBroom has been one guy that's been fantastic last year with the Kansas City Royals. 100 fielding percentage, no errors for them in the field.
As he takes that pitch in there for a strike, Yamaguchi working back in the count a little bit now. McBroom came up with runners on in his first at-bat, unable to do anything as he grounded out with the bases loaded, but now with none out and a runner on first, trying to build off of the lead that they've already established. As Yamaguchi misses high with the fastball, 3-1.
Well, McBroom's been bouncing around from the major leagues and minor leagues for his whole career so far, and he's had a knack for making the team at his spring training, as the last 3 years he's had an over 300 batting average in the spring.
Well, and this Royals offense, for the most part, has been hot all around. the start that we've seen from them so far is better than expected, 7-4, and largely because of the arms, but the bats haven't been slacking either, as this one fouled off again. Count remains 3-2.
And Ryan McBroom getting on base right here could be huge for Brett Phillips coming up, as maybe the bunt situation could be on.
And he swings right over top of that one. Yamaguchi records his first strikeout here, and McBroom heads back to the dugout. So Phillips instead will be coming up with 1 on and 1 out.
Well, that's a really confident pitch there from Shun Yamaguchi. Elects to go with the breaking ball there and gets the strikeout. And now that changes the entire dynamic of the inning. Instead of there being 2 on with nobody out, now there's just a runner on first base, and a ground ball can get him out of the inning.
Phillips has a bit of speed, pretty speedy center fielder, so there'll have to be a ground ball hit right to someone, but nonetheless, Phillips yet to reach base so far today. On one of only 2 Royals to not reach yet. And Biggio messes up that ground ball as he ranges to his right, hits off of the heel of his glove, and unable to recover. So a tough play as he has to range towards the center of the infield, and it'll be ruled a base hit.
And maybe the speed of, or the minor bit of speed there from Brett Phillips, putting a little bit of pressure on the defense, as it seemed like it was a bit of a rushed turn to second base there. Kevin Biggio might have been thinking about the end result of the play rather than just getting that ball to Bo Bichette to turn it to first.
And the trend continues here as shaky middle infielding continues to haunt both teams. Potential double play ball there that could have gotten them out of the inning. Again, a tough play. Hard to say that's a sure out, but definitely a play where you expect to, at the very least, get 1 out. Big breaking ball from Yamaguchi misses, and he's really got an interesting mix of speeds. You saw that one come in at 67. Earlier today, we saw him hit up to 95 with the fastball. So that misses wide, 94.
It's very tough for a batter as well, especially when a pitcher can mix his pitches and speed so quickly, because timing a Major League Baseball pitcher can be one of the most difficult things to do.
This one's hit on the ground to third. Drury, and he'll mess it up too. So that one bounces off of his hands. He was set up perfectly, planted his feet, unable to field that one cleanly. Someone that doesn't start every game at third base, but nonetheless, that's his primary position. Gets down and just botches it off his glove a little bit, and now it's bases loaded for the top of the order.
This is an absolute nightmare right now for the Toronto Blue Jays defense. They knew it was going to be difficult to get some runs against the really hot pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, as Junis hadn't given up a run before this, and making these errors is making it really tough on the Toronto Blue Jays pitchers to try and get out of these innings and limit the Kansas City Royals' damage.
Honestly, grounded into a double play in his last plate appearance, which is no easy task. One of the fastest men in all of baseball, but they managed to turn it to get out of the 4th inning after 2 runs already came in to score. Yamaguchi looking for a similar fade, or at the very least to get 1 out here without allowing yet another run to cross the plate for the Royals, already ahead by 3.
Yeah, and you worry about that top of the order. The Blue Jays have had a couple of opportunities to try and leave that top of the order to the next inning.
So it's hit on the ground. Shaw reaches over. He's going to go home, and they get 1 out. They won't have time to turn up double play, but a great play by Shaw there as he throws home for the force out, avoids stepping on the base, and Franco is retired at the plate without a run scoring.
Well, another ground ball there, and Blue Jays defense would probably be wishing that ball was hit a little bit harder so they could have tried to turn a double play, but we mentioned the bottom of the order's getting on with errors, and now you have to face the best hitters in the Kansas City lineups coming up right now.
And Shaw bouncing back nicely. He had his own defensive lapses in the series on the road in Philadelphia, but an important moment to step up there, and he did. Fastball taken for a strike. Left up over the plate probably a little more than Yamaguchi might have wanted against a power bat like Dozier, but nonetheless gets called for a strike.
And I think the Blue Jays will be pretty happy with the way Yamaguchi has pitched so far. It's kind of an unknown prospect to a lot of scouts here in American League Baseball, as they haven't seen a lot of players coming from Japan, but he's really panned out at the Major League level.
This ball misses wide, so Yamaguchi now working deep into the count against Dozier. Already thrown 24 pitches here in just his first inning of work as the 2-2 is lifted high into the third base side, just out of the play, foul. Drury's going to range over there and haul that one in. So no damage done. A big scare from the Royals, but nothing comes across the plate as Shun Yamaguchi gets out of it, and we head to the bottom of the 6th. Kevin Biggio will lead things off for the Royals as Junis begins his 6th inning of work here. No signs of fatigue showing from him yet, but a couple arms getting loose out in that Kansas City bullpen.
Yeah, and this is kind of a pivotal inning here for Jakob Junis. It may not be his last inning of work. He's at 75 pitches right now. If he can get a quick inning and throw not too many pitches, maybe around the 10 to 15 mark, there's a pretty good chance we see him coming out for the next inning.
And especially important from a team morale perspective, unable to capitalize with the bases loaded in the top of the inning. You really want to get your bats right back out there, so a quick inning would mean a lot here as this one's hit hard to the right field side, but foul. Biggio now behind 0-2. Got the RBI. He drove in the Jays' only run so far tonight, back in the 3rd inning with a sac fly that cashed in Anthony Alford. 1-2 right over the middle of the play. This one's driven to center field. Ranging back is Brett Phillips, and he's under it and hauls that one in. But bit of a mistake there from Junis as that was left right over the plate for Biggio.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of balls hit out to the outfield right now, and I think that speaks to the breaking ball of Jakob Junis. None of these Blue Jays batters are able to get under anything because pretty much every ball he's thrown has been breaking down and away out of the zone, or it's just been a dot right on the side of the plate.
And there's another one placed nicely right on that outside corner. Junis hitting his spot. Gurriel fouls that one off, but that's not a pitch that you can really do a lot with down and away. And here's another one on the block of the plate, but called a ball just inside.
And Lourdes Gurriel is a lot better hitter when he's facing against left-handed pitchers, so a tough matchup, especially with that breaking ball from Junis.
Gets a piece of that one, but way out in front, he yanks that one foul, so another 2-strike count. Gurriel yet to reach base with a single, 0 for 2 today as he breaks his bat there. Junis reached out and grabs it, but that bat went flying. You can see it went past the pitcher's mound towards second base. It really speaks to how much Junis got inside and jammed Gurriel there.
Yeah, a really confident catch there from Jake Junis. The bat was flying out, but no fear just to run over and grab that ball, as he did have the second baseman charging in to throw him out as well.
So now Guerrero stepping up. He's got one of the Jays' only 3 hits so far tonight. That one was a single that was driven down the right field line after he just missed getting an extra base hit foul into the corner. So see if he continues trying to spray balls into opposite field or changes his approach here as he swings through that high fastball.
Yeah, and look at that right there. Jakob Junis been so effective down in the zone and then goes right up in the zone 2 times in a row there, and there's no way Guerrero was sitting on that.
As he swings through that one, Junis again, as you mentioned, out front attacking, ahead 1-2. Swing and a miss, and Junis looking stellar so far tonight. Adds another strikeout to his collection as Guerrero Jr. goes down swinging, and through 6, Kansas City still leads by 3. Shun Yamaguchi returns to the pitching mound for the Toronto Blue Jays as he's got a difficult task ahead of him. He managed to escape a bases-loaded jam without allowing any runs, but now it'll be 3-4-5 as Whit Merrifield hits that one over to Brandon Drury at third base, who fields this one cleanly and guns it over the first, and that's one away for the Kansas City Royals.
And really surprising to see Whit Merrifield sitting on a first pitch right now. You have a bullpen pitcher coming out for a second inning of work, and you're trying to work down their bullpen and take some pitches, especially in the first game of this series, and he hits a ground ball, an easy play for Brendan Drury at third base on the very first pitch of the at-bat.
Next, there'll be Jorge Soler, who's been kept relatively quiet after his RBI single in the first. A ground ball that Tanner Roark was trying to induce, and he got the ground ball, but it was just laced into a hole in the infield instead of the double play ball he was looking for. So the single from Soler back in the first really got things going for the Royals, as that drove in the first run that started things off in an eventual 2-run rally in the first. And then later on, the Royals tacked on 2 more with another set of singles, where a leadoff walk from Salvador Perez, who's on deck now, came around to score the first run after singles from Maikel Franco and Ryan McBroom. And then the Jays themselves tacked on a run later on with a sac fly from Kevin Biggio. So that's where we're at now, 4-1. But Shun Yamaguchi picks up his second strikeout as Jorge Soler swings and misses on that one. And Shun Yamaguchi's now retired 3 in a row after loading the bases in his last inning of work.
Well, we know Soler has had some strikeout issues, but that was just 3 nasty pitches there from Shun Yamaguchi. Went to the fastball, then a really sharp breaking ball, and just painted the outside corner with that last pitch. Not much Soler could do, as he was clearly sitting on the breaking ball.
And that's why the Jays keep going back to Yamaguchi, because I mentioned he's been hit or miss so far and been stung by a couple home runs in key situations, but he does have a great mix of pitches. He's got the speed change that you've touched on, Thomas, and he's got a very unique splitter that he's used effectively. And that's the reason that they keep going to him. A great strikeout there against a top-tier hitter in Soler, and really shows what Yamaguchi's capable of. This pitch misses just outside. Great take from the veteran Perez to move things to 3-1.
Yeah, and Salvador Perez realizes that Shun Yamaguchi is picking the outside corners right now, so he says, well, I'm just not going to swing and hope that I can get the call, and that's what's happened so far, as he's had a really great at-bat, working the count to 3-2.
Well, that fastball back in the zone over the middle of the plate, but fouled out of play off to the right field side. It's a full count now against Salvador Perez. And the breaking ball freezes him, frozen right there. He watches that one come in right over the middle of the plate to end the inning, as Shun Yamaguchi sets him up with fastballs and pulls the string with the old Uncle Charlie to end the inning. And Jakob Junis' day comes to an end as Scott Barlow comes in for relief here for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, and Scott Barlow, one of those guys in the bullpen that the Kansas City Royals are going to be looking to a little bit. It's a weak bullpen for the Kansas City Royals. If you were to pick out a spot that needed improvement, it would definitely be their bullpen. But Scott Barlow, one of those guys, had a +4 ERA last year, but looking to get that down this year.
This one's hit on the ground, foul. Randall Grichuk trying to jump on Barlow's first pitch here as he swings on the second one, grounded up the middle. Whit Merrifield fields it on the opposite side of second base and throws over the first base. And a quick out there as Barlow retires Randall Grichuk on just 2 pitches.
And interesting to see the Kansas City bullpen's going to their bullpen right now. It's just a 3-run game, and it is a weak point for them. And Jake Junis was only around 80 pitches and was really dealing, but I guess maybe later in the season you see Jake Junis go the distance or go as long as he can, but early in the season right now you don't want to burn out your pitchers too much, and you want to make sure you salvage their arm as much as you can.
And I think if I'm Mike Matheny, I like this matchup with Barlow and the bottom of the Jays order, because we've touched on it that the Jays' lower half is really susceptible to the strikeout. And Barlow, a right-hander with a hard slider, as you see it right there as he gets the swing and miss from Drury, he's a guy that generates a lot of swing and miss. So potentially Junis, as you mentioned, saving his arm, but also potentially just like the matchup as Barlow delivers the 1-2 and a swung on and miss. Brandon Drury goes down swinging once again. All 3 at-bats today, he has swung and missed on the breaking ball. 3 strikeouts, 0 for 3 as he heads back, and you can see the anger on his face.
You mentioned the really good stuff in breaking ball, and the bottom of this Jays order is definitely the part of the order that doesn't really have as great an eye at the plate. You look at the top of the order with Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, and Guerrero Jr., and those are guys that can really take pitches on the outside corner and be confident that they're going to get called for balls, but the bottom of the order is a little bit more free swinging.
And Jansen starts his at-bat off with an example of exactly what you talk about. He swings and misses on the breaking ball before fouling one off to bring things to 0-2 now. Barlow looking to finish it off, and Jansen stays alive as he spoils a high fastball. Kansas City has a few interesting pieces in their pen. Most notably the veteran reliever Trevor Rosenthal, who hasn't made an appearance yet so far in 2020, but a project that they salvaged out of camp and made the roster to start the year as Jansen continues to battle here, fouling off another ball.
This is such a fantastic opportunity for Trevor Rosenthal. A lot of people probably writing him off because his career was over, but a chance to rejuvenate it here in Kansas City, as he hasn't been the closer on a team since 2015 with the St. Louis.
Jansen hits that one hard but foul. So the next 1-2 pitch, right on the outside corner, right at the knees, and they get the call. The breaking ball rings up Danny Jansen, and he'll head back, shaking his head. Barlow a clean inning of work as we head to the top of the 8th. Top of the 8th, and it'll be Maikel Franco, who's had quite a nice day so far today. He walked in the first before singling and scoring in the second, and started off the 6th, which was Yamaguchi's first inning of work, with another single, as eventually stranded as Yamaguchi escaped the inning with the bases loaded, as he'll start things off now in the 8th as Yamaguchi's in his 3rd inning of work already.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Shun Yamaguchi continues to pitch after Maikel Franco. He's definitely a better hitter versus right-handed pitching, or versus left-handed pitching, I should say, and Shun Yamaguchi in his 3rd inning of work. You can't imagine they want to burn him out at the beginning of this series, so it could be a quick move to the bullpen after this.
Well, they've got a few guys out there, Gavilio and Font and Pannone, that can all give multiple innings, but it seems almost time after time that Montoyo first turns to Yamaguchi. So interesting to keep an eye on that bullpen usage as things progress here. The 2-2, and that one is driven to center field. Fastball left out over the middle of the plate, and Franco makes no mistake on that one, absolutely hammering that one to center field and adding on one more to the Kansas City Royals' now 5-1 lead.
Well, Maikel Franco looked like he was sitting on the breaking ball that entire at-bat, and he gets a really good one, as that was not a sharp breaking ball. We've seen some good ones from Shun Yamaguchi, but right over the middle of the plate, and he just hammered that one right out to left center field, and it's going to be really tough for the Blue Jays now to come back in this one, as it's gone past the safe situation, and it's now a 4-run game.
And that'll chase Yamaguchi from the game, as it'll be the righty reliever Justin Miller coming in now to face the next hitter up, which is Ryan McBroom. But Yamaguchi, a tough outing for him, once again bitten by the home run. First pitch misses for a ball, as Miller's delivery just outside the strike zone. So McBroom, again, we mentioned on his 28th birthday, looking to add on to what has already been a pretty successful day. He had a RBI single back in the 4th inning to drive in what was the first of 2 runs that inning. And then later on, he struck out, swinging over top of a low fastball. So working ahead quickly here with 2-0, trying to do some more damage.
The Blue Jays have high hopes for Justin Miller this year. He's had a couple good seasons in the past. His ERA when he was back with Detroit and Colorado in the 2014-2015 seasons was well up over 4, but he had that 1 year in Washington in 2018 where he had a 3.61 ERA, and if he can put numbers up like that for the Blue Jays, he can be a really key guy coming out of this bullpen.
And a project similar to what we've seen a lot from this Jays staff, whether it be Daniel Hudson or Javi Guerra or all sorts of different relievers are taking chances on, as that one is swung on and missed by McBroom. Misses yet another fastball as Miller picks up his first strikeout on McBroom's 2nd time going down swinging on the day. And that was almost middle. So a pitch that if McBroom was ready for, he might have been able to do some damage, but seems as if he was caught off guard or sitting on maybe a breaking ball there.
It's a really good opportunity for Brett Phillips this year to try and get maybe somewhat of a full season in. The most games he's ever played in the major league level in a season is 51, but you'd have to imagine there's a pretty good chance that he's going to surpass that this year.
Fastball offering misses wide, and you talk about the opportunity so far. 2-0 count against Miller, who's really been challenging, from what we've seen, challenging hitters with the fastball both tonight and in his previous outing. So Phillips can probably expect a fastball here and hope to be ready to greet it. Slider there, he changes things up as that catches the zone, brings things to 2-1.
It's tough for guys like Justin Miller facing a young lineup because there's not much of a scouting report on these guys so far. It's early in their year. A lot of them are rookies or only been in the league for 1 year. So a guy like Miller who's been in the league for 5 years is seeing a little bit of a new look in this lineup for Kansas City.
And it won't get any more experienced as on deck it's Bubba Starling, another guy who's fresh to the league. 3-1 pitch, fouled off to bring things full at 3-2. Miller didn't appear against Philadelphia, so he's coming off of a few days of rest, especially considering the off day yesterday. This one is swung on and missed, and Miller now back-to-back strikeouts as he strikes out swinging the first 2 batters he faces. Great sequencing there as he makes Phillips expand down and away. That pitch might have cut some black, but either way, the swing goes right through it, and now 2 away as Bubba Starling steps up.
Bubba Starling, another one of those guys that's just been able to earn his way onto the club at a spring training. And not to say that spring training at-bats are equivalent to regular season at-bats, but a .344 batting average and 50 at-bats last spring got him on the team. And this year, kind of a similar scenario where he's able to make his way into an outfield role in Kansas City that was kind of up for grabs, especially with a veteran guy like Alex Gordon out there.
And way out in front on the slider, so Miller 1 strike away now from striking out the side. 1-2, swung on and missed as he tries to chase the slider. Miller gets 3 strikeouts, but not until after Maikel Franco demolishes a ball to center field. And that one was out of the park the moment it left his bat. The Jays, time to catch up, needing 4 runs as we head to the bottom of the 8th. Bottom of the 8th here, and it'll be the Royals setup man Kevin McCarthy coming in, trying to keep things exactly where they are as he's got a 4-run lead, and that's where they want to keep it. He's got the top of the order to deal with, and so after getting 8 and 9 here, it'll be Bo Bichette followed by Biggio and Gurriel if they manage to get that far. But first for him, it'll start with Travis Shaw here in the 8th hole. First pitch misses outside as he starts him out with the changeup. You can see some more arms warming out in the pen for Kansas City, likely depending on what happens here, whether the Jays manage to get some runners on base. We'll probably see Tim Hill come in, and if not, maybe Stamont comes out to relieve him as this ball is grounded over the first base as Shaw jumps on that offering and yanks it on the ground, but McBroom is there, and the first batter is retired here.
Travis Shaw really struggling at the plate in this game, and especially this season as well. It seems like his timing's a little bit off, as pitchers have been able to get him to ground out to the right side on the breaking ball very often. He's a guy that's usually been a key player and a good hitter on the teams he's been on, but I don't think the Blue Jays are expecting that from him this year, but he will have to get his batting average a little bit up if he wants to stay on this team.
And this one's hit up the middle, fielded nicely by Mondesi over the first, and Alford is retired. So as the bottom of the order goes down quickly, that's 14 consecutive Blue Jays retires by the combination of Junis, Barlow, and now McCarthy. So Bo Bichette 1 for 3 on the day. Got one of the Jays' 3 hits back in the 3rd inning as he singled to shortstop that maybe you could have called an error, but is deemed a hit.
Bo Bichette wears the number 11 on his back, but when he came to the club, he had 3 choices of numbers to wear. It was either number 20, 19, or 11, and if you're a Blue Jays fan for the last couple of years, you know that number 20 was the legendary third baseman for the Blue Jays, Josh Donaldson, and Jose Bautista prior to him, and he figured that it would be respectful if he took the number 11 as a tribute to Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista.
Next pitch misses 2-1, so 3-1 count, and yeah, there's some interesting recent players here with the Jays. One of the name you mentioned, number 11, Kevin Pillar. We've already seen him in Rogers Center so far here as they open the season. Now him with the Red Sox as he visited for the 4-game series. As this ball's hit hard towards left field, but it's hooking it. It will get out of the play and into the seats now. The count full.
And it's clear that Bo Bichette has been watching Blue Jays baseball, as he called it a lose-lose situation if he was to wear one of those numbers.
And this ball is lifted to center field, so Phillips hauls that in, and McCarthy pitches another clean inning. The Jays not getting anything going offensively, and now it'll be 1-2-3 for the Royals as they try to add on to start the top of the 9th. Top of the 9th here, and it'll be Sam Gaviglio making his very first appearance of the season. Yes, last year you can see he pitched quite a bit, 13 games in here in 2020, and this is the first time Montoya was going to him.
Yeah, and another one of those guys that can pitch a couple innings for the Blue Jays, but the Jays are got to do a lot of work if they want to get into a situation where Gaviglio is going more than one tonight.
First pitch, Gaviglio misses low, and yeah, you mentioned he's a guy that can go multiple innings, but 4 runs down in the 9th inning already. It'll be quite a task if we see him out here again, pitching more than one tonight.
Well, the Kansas City bullpen has been a little bit stingy lately, but it's going to take a lot more than an 0 for 14 in their last couple at-bats for the Jays to get something going in the 9th.
Well, in Kansas City, their entire pitching staff, 2nd in the majors in runs allowed. So far, through their first few games, they've only allowed 27 runs. The Jays themselves, 3rd in the majors with 30 runs allowed. So 2 pitching staffs here that have been strong so far, which would, potentially discourage any chances of a comeback. But hey, you can never rule it out. The game with no clock, as it's known. You've got 3 outs left to play with, so we'll see what can happen here. Gaviglio's ahead 2-2. Pitches swung and hit hard on the ground. Foul on the first base side.
It's fair to say that these 2 bullpens are not really expected to be 2nd and 3rd in the league, as it's definitely not the strong point of both of these teams. I should say the pitching staff, but it's a really good start for them, and it also brings up the question of whether some of these guys might be trade bait at the trade deadline, is to see if they can get something out of it if they're not contenders.
Modesty frozen there by Gavilio, so his second strikeout of the day. He'll finish the day 1 for 5 with just the one double, the quasi-double in his first plate appearance, where he didn't hit it overly hard, but it was just a hustle double. He managed to leg it out and came around to score later on. So a pretty successful day for Mondesi, aside from a few blunders in the field. But nonetheless, it'll be Hunter Dozier now, behind in the count 0-1. This one's hit hard towards left field, and that one's going to get down, but just foul. That ball really driven out there. So now 0-2. Gavilio setting up on the outside corner. Does not get the call. The slider breaking just out of the zone, but that was exactly where they wanted that.
Well, a lot of the time in an 0-2 count, the batter's expecting something well out of the zone, maybe a breaking ball, but kind of a gutsy call from Danny Jansen, as they definitely had Hunter Dozier frozen on that outside corner.
And he's frozen again as he takes that for strike 3. So 0 for 5 for Hunter Dozier, the only batter in this 9-man Kansas City Royals lineup that fails to reach base, at least so far. If you're trusting your aforementioned thought that maybe Gavilio goes a couple innings, maybe we'll see that change. But as of now, the only man not to reach base as he strikes out there for the second time today. And Whit Merrifield, someone else that doesn't quite have a hit registered, but he reached on an error and came around to score the second run of the game, which might hold up as currently the potential winning run, as this one's grounded over the second base and thrown over the first. So it's going to be time for a late rally if the Jays can pull something together. If not, the Royals looking to close as we head to the bottom of the ninth.
Your attention, please.
And Josh Staumont coming out here, making his first appearance of 2020. Not quite a save situation, as the Jays are down 4 runs, but still nonetheless an important situation for him, with some pretty high leverage here as the Royals look to close out the first game of this 4-game set in Toronto.
And Cabin Bijou is a good guy to start off the inning. He's a good guy at getting on base. His on-base percentage well above what his batting average would be. So being patient here in this at-bat, just like he has been so far, would definitely be a key for Cabin Bijou. A lot of young batters might have the tendency to go swinging, trying to get it all back in one swing, but Cabin Bijou, a disciplined guy.
Well, and you see it right now, ahead 3-0. None of those pitches have been necessarily overly close to the zone. The last two especially missing quite wild, as Staumont still tries to settle in here in the 9th inning. 3-0 pitch right on the outside corner, gets the call, spots the fastball. Nice pitch there to find the zone, as Biggio seemed to be taking that one almost all the way. Now 3-1. Behind Biggio, it's Gurriel on deck with Guerrero in the hole. 3-1 misses wide and a 5-pitch walk to Biggio. Doesn't offer a swing up whatsoever, and he'll stroll over the first base with his free 90 feet.
And that's Cabin Bijou in a nutshell right there, just finding any way he can to get on base. And the best hitters in the Blue Jays lineup arguably are coming up now, so if they're going to do it, that's how it starts with Cabin Bijou.
And if the fastball isn't locating for him right now, he could be in some trouble. He's more or less a 2-pitch pitcher, throws a fastball and a big curveball, so maybe we start to see the curveball, seeing if he can find that one, but locating the fastball, of course, important for every pitcher, as the curveball misses wide there for the first pitch to Gurriel.
And we hear the volume in Rogers Center go up a little bit, as it seems like the Blue Jays have a bit of life here in this 9th inning.
Well, if you're a Jays fan, this is who you want up. You got the middle of the order, and already a runner on base, as Staumont's got some trouble to work his way out of here. This will be his first full season with the Royals. He appeared in 16 games in relief last year, finished a few, not overly high leverage, as this one misses again low. So he's thrown 9 pitches so far, and he's thrown 8 pitches so far, and 7 of them have been balls.
By the way, Cabin Biggio does have a little bit of speed over there at first base, but I can't imagine that the steal will be on right now, especially with Gurriel ahead in the count and a 4-run game.
Well, the 3-0 taking that fastball in there at 98 for strike 1. Next pitch just outside, and back-to-back walks, back-to-back 5-pitch walks, as Stamont all of a sudden showing a little bit of trouble here, as now Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes up with 2 runners on and nobody away.
Well, it might be time to just maybe put a precautionary arm warming up in the Kansas City bullpen, as with the best hitters in the Jays lineup, you don't want to really get into a bases loaded situation. You're willing to give up a run for an out in this situation, but definitely looking for a double play ground ball to get a couple and maybe make this a little bit more comfortable for the Kansas City Royals.
Well, it's officially a save situation, as the tying run is on deck now in the form of Randall Grichuk. But first it'll be Guerrero Jr. as Stamont misses again with a ball and another ball. So 12 pitches into his day, he's thrown just 2 strikes. And the Jays hitters, they know that. The 2-0. Breaking ball, hit on the ground, fielded by Dozier, over the second for 1, back to first, and they turn 2. And the whole inning changes just like that, as Dozier fields cleanly, fires to second, and the twin killer gets the Royals just 1 out of the way from taking Game 1 in Toronto.
I have no idea why Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a green light on a 2-0 count right there. He was ahead in the count. Stamont obviously having some control issues right now, and he grounds into a ball that might have even been out of the zone for a double play. Now all Stamont has to do is throw strikes and hope the Blue Jays batters get themselves out.
Fails to throw a strike on that first pitch there, as Grichuk takes it low for ball 1. We'll see now what he's got. The 1-0 pitch, a breaking ball, misses wide once again.
This is a major missed opportunity for the Blue Jays right now, as huge control issues on the mound, but just not quite disciplined enough to wait for their pitch and try and get even more ahead in the count.
Last year, mentioned the relatively small sample size, and 19 in the third innings, Stamont with 10 walks and 15 strikeouts, so not necessarily a stellar ratio there, as swings and misses over the top of this one. Grichuk now down to potentially the Jays' final strike of this evening. Stamont, the 2-2. Gets the swing and miss in the fastball. Comes back with another fastball, but Grichuk takes high now, as we've seen pitches all over the zone from him. Fastballs and curveballs in all sorts of different locations. That one misses high. So now Grichuk with the full count, 2 out. Jays down by 4. The payoff pitch is inside, and it's another walk. It's another walk for the Blue Jays. That's their 3rd walk, as Stamont's only faced 4 batters thus far.
Yeah, and 3 walks and 4 batters in this inning, but unbelievable that the Blue Jays can see themselves right now with runners on first and second and 2 outs in that situation.
And you can't blame Mike Matheny for going to the pen here, bringing in Trevor Rosenthal, who we touched on earlier. A bit of an interesting story, making his first appearance in 2020.
Well, yeah, this is a really interesting spot right now for Trevor Rosenthal, a guy who's trying to get himself back to be an established major league pitcher. He was a lights-out guy for the St. Louis Cardinals a couple years ago and just hasn't been able to find that form in recent years.
And this ball hit on the ground in front of the catcher. Perez ranging out for it, throws to first, and they get him. A beautiful play by Perez, as Rosenthal only needs 1 pitch to pick up the save here. Perez, the Gold Glove winner, ranges out in front of the plate, throws on to first, and ends the game. So for the Kansas City Royals, they continue their stretch where hot pitching carries them to a win, as Jakob Junis' dominating outing tonight gives them their first win in this road trip.
Well, how about that? Exactly what Trevor Rosenthal probably would have wanted right there in his season debut. He just has to throw 1 pitch, and it's a really good one. Gets the ground out, and calms the storm that the Blue Jays were brewing up there in the 9th inning. And a tough game for them for sure, as they had the opportunities but couldn't get the hits, and the defense was really stingy for Toronto this one.
And a great opportunity for Rosenthal. You mentioned his first appearance of 2020, his first time recording a save since 2017, and what better time to get him the reps than a Thursday night game here in April. Great work by Kansas City as they take this one 5-1. Aside from Jakob Junis, who would you say would a standout performer tonight?
Well, the entire Kansas City Royals had a really good lineup. Maikel Franco, obviously, with the home run and the RBI, but if it wasn't for the rest of his teammates getting on base and getting things going, capitalizing on the Blue Jays' mistakes, it would be a completely different ball game. And I think the Blue Jays are going to be kicking themselves after this one, as it looks like a lopsided score, but the momentum changer tonight was really in the errors that came in the field.
Well, they'll be right back here tomorrow night. Not too much time to work on those errors, but you can be sure that before tomorrow night's game, they'll be talking about it and likely taking some extra drills in the field. Tomorrow we get underway at 7:07, and we've got Danny Duffy versus Chase Anderson, so join us for tomorrow night. From Rogers Center here tonight on the Virtual Jays Network, it's been Drew Frank, joined alongside Thomas West. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.